Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Elephant in the Room, where we figure out where people start and where they're going to let you know that you can do it too. Today, I'm joined with my guest, Robert Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm in the spot, in the place to be. So, it's usually when I'm in this room, I'm on the other side, right? I'm in your
Yeah.
shoes, as we shot last week. So you know that usually I'm the one asking the questions, but now I'm being asked.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but I am doing well. I can't complain. I'm blessed. So.
Good, good. I was going to say, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what have you done for Sacred
Um.
Heart?
So well, that's a hard question for anybody. Who are you? I am. I'm a. I say I'm a kid. I'm not a kid. I'm a grown man now. But
You look like a grown man.
all right. But I'm a kid from Poughkeepsie, man. And when I say a kid from Poughkeepsie, I'm always thinking about that younger version of me that had um this vision of doing more with his life, not necessarily knowing what, but just knowing that I was going to. I didn't know that I would get to this point. Well, I knew I would get to this point. I just didn't know how, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I always that's what I mean when I say I'm a Poughkeepsie kid. Um, and in terms of like my involvement at Sacred Heart, man, it's a decade and a half full of labels and experiences of where I started. I started out as a first generation freshman college football player. I was a nose guard. Most people are like, "What? No way!"
Wow.
And I'm like, "Yes, I was a 315-pound nose guard at Sacred Heart."
Wow.
Um, there's a whole story to that. Um, it transitioned to shoe in 2012. Played football while playing football here. Won two NEC championships for the first time here at Sacred Heart.
Congratulations.
So I was a part of that team that helped build the foundation for what you see now as Sacred Heart football. Um, and aside from that, I helped to establish Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated as the first Divine Nine here. We are the last Divine Nine organization, but we were the first established here at Sacred Heart to charter. Myself and my nine line brothers, we chartered here back in 2014. And yeah, man, I mean, my experience at Sacred Heart has been um, nothing but learning, nothing but growth, and nothing but development. It's so funny when people talk about the growth and development of the institution, because when I first came here to you see all these great buildings, the glitz and the glam in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, oh, everything looks so new and modern. When I came here, we still looked like a commuter school, right? We didn't
Yeah.
look like a D1 school. And it's funny, you know, I I see as the school grew, I grew with it, right? And I see the school continuing to grow, so I'm like, oh, if that's the track record, I'm going to continue to grow with it. If that, you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, it's been one hell of a journey here at Sacred Heart, and I love every minute of it. The good, the bad, the ups and downs. I've become my best self in this environment because I was willing to just challenge myself to adapt, challenge myself to become better, and make the most out of the opportunity here. So,
Absolutely. And, we'll cover more about personal development later on in the podcast and what you have to do to offer your giving back and how you're giving back. But,
hmm
I kind of want to talk a little bit about, not only were you successful on the football field, but you received a DEIB award
sure, yeah,
at
yeah.
Sacred Heart
hmm
University. Can you tell us a little bit about that award?
Yeah, so the AAU, I always forget. So essentially, our faculty and staff, they have this union,
Yes.
right? Well, our faculty, not our staff, but our faculty, our
Student
professors.
union, right?
No, 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 no. It's very
Oh,
different,
different,
very
different,
different.
different.
So,
Okay.
they have the AAU. I always forget what it stands for, but yeah, they essentially hand out these awards to faculty and staff who exemplify some level of excellence, or they recognize these people for their works, right? Now it's easier for me because I run a multicultural center, right? So
Yes.
like the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is embedded in what I do. So it's hard for somebody who's a professor who's teaching one or two classes per week to be able to go out into the community. They don't have a physical space, so I had an advantage. Um, but all that said, I think I assisted with laying some really solid foundation and groundwork when it comes to those conversations on our campus. Um, you know, up until 2020, we weren't having these conversations on our campus.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob has always been having these conversations on our campus. So what I mean by that is like we weren't having these conversations in an official capacity, like at all. It's funny, my line brother Rudy, shout out Rudy Favard,
Mm-hmm.
he sent me a text of a diversity workshop flyer that my other line brother Moses put together, and I facilitated each diversity workshop that we had, because I was always so passionate about cultural competency, diversity. Because I was a psych major, but I was a sociology minor, so I'm learning
Can
all
we
of these
hold on a
different
second,
things. Yeah,
actually?
yeah. Go
Can we
ahead.
talk about where that motivation came from? Why were you so inspired by that?
To do that, you mean on our
Yes.
campus?
Yes.
Nobody was talking about it. Like I'm seeing videos of Eric Garner like getting choked out,
Mm.
and nobody on our campus is talking about it. Like there was radio silence. I'm seeing news of Mike Brown being murdered by police. Nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing news about Sandra Bland. Nobody's talking about it. And I'm like, I know I see it. I know my other um uh
Brothers and
I don't know.
sisters.
Yeah, I know my other black student athletes see it.
Yep.
I know my other black non-student athletes seeing it. We're talking about it to one another,
Yeah.
but there's no acknowledgement on behalf of the institution about these happenings. So we were like, well, we'll do it ourselves. Y'all don't want to talk about it. That's cool. But I think we need to have this discussion on this campus because this affects me emotionally. This affects me in my ability to do my work and my ability to see my value as a human being.
Mm.
Because I'm seeing people be gunned down and or strangled by law enforcement. Um, and so I always share this story. 8 months before I came into college, that would have been me.
Mm-hmm.
I had officers draw guns on me. I had, that I was in that predicament. I was in that situation.
Wow.
So like when people aren't discussing these issues, they're bound to get worse. We're in the position that we're in as a country, as a society, because we've avoided these conversations for so long. So that's what inspired me to host those diversity workshops. There was also things happening um, on campus as well as at other campuses nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So there was essentially a cultural appropriation party that took place at I'm not going to mention the name of the school,
Mm-hmm.
but those students, and this made headlines nationally. This is in 2016. Those students didn't have a platform on their campus to talk about what was happening. So when we had our diversity workshop, they actually came. We had students from that institution come to our institution to talk about that experience and how they felt and um, why it was an issue, why it was a problem. So people can avoid conversations on cultural competency, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging if they want to, but all you're doing is setting yourself up to, you know, do and say those things that people identify as inappropriate.
Absolutely.
So
And for those of us that don't know, congratulations on your award. I know we went a little off track there, but
yeah, it's all
I do want to I do want to kind of unpack the Shoe Multicultural Club here because
sure.
we didn't have that until maybe after I had left,
Yeah,
even my undergrad
fall
year.
2020.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I want to kind of unpack that and really spread awareness for underrepresented students and
Sure.
what you're talking about right now. But most importantly, for those of us who don't know,
Mhm.
what is Shoe Multicultural? You're also the executive director of that.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that club? It's
So
new.
it's first and foremost, we're a department, right? So we're under the umbrella of a
Gotcha.
new department called the Office for Inclusive Excellence, right? So the Office for Inclusive Excellence, essentially the mission is to showcase to the entire institution that inclusive excellence is a journey,
Mm,
and becoming a more inclusive and equitable environment takes intentional steps by everybody in our community, right? So that goes with reviewing policies that create inequities for a multitude of different underrepresented people, right? Um, so I'm under that umbrella, um, and my focus, my mission, or our mission in multicultural affairs is to create a space of belonging, acceptance, inclusivity, where people of minoritized or underrepresented backgrounds can bring their authentic selves to Sacred Heart, to our community, without diluting themselves, without feeling like they have to assimilate. Like you can be you. You can be whatever aspect of uh your ethnic background, you know what I mean, your
Hmm.
cultural identity that has shaped who you are, right? Because a lot of times people come to a Sacred Heart or predominantly white institution and they feel like they have to change who they are just to fit in. But what people don't realize is that you lose sight of who you are as you're trying to assimilate to that community and that environment. So you
Gotcha.
then become inauthentic whether you like it or not. So yes,
Yes.
the Multicultural Center is a place where students can bring their authentic selves. We don't exclude any group of students, right?
Hmm.
We unapologetically create spaces for underrepresented students of historically marginalized backgrounds to know that no, you have a place here on this campus. You have resources via our department. You have support. You have guidance. You have mentorship. All the things that you need as an underrepresented student to get through these. It can be a tough 4 years if you don't have that, right?
You know, I think that's fantastic because even personally, as a minority coming to Sacred Heart University,
Mm,
I felt right away that there was kind of a target on my back, and not in a
sure.
bad way, but that I stood out. You
You
know, I
had
had,
eyes on you.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
under a microscope for
Yeah,
sure. Hmm.
being that I had like, dreads, I dressed a certain way,
Hmm.
different than everybody, and everything like that. A little bit about my stories. I decided with that target on my back that I was going to use it for something positive
Hmm.
and not negative.
Hmm.
But aside from that, I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
and it's about time.
Hmm.
I'm going to say it
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
because there needs to be an area, especially for people in a predominantly white school like Sacred Heart
Sure.
University, to have a voice and to
Absolutely.
speak. Most importantly, though, how do you measure the success and retention rate of underrepresented students,
Hmm.
and how are you measuring like how they're going to be included and not misrepresented
Mm.
in this
That's a
university?
good question. So it's always difficult, right? I'll just say it flat out. It's very hard to assess that, right? We have students that come, like, not all underrepresented experiences are monolithic. So what I mean is, so a student who is um, Black or African American, who's Hispanic, versus the student with a disability, versus the student with who's a part of the queer community, they will, let's say, leave this institution for different reasons.
Hmm.
But the core reason is that their experience is probably, there aren't resources or there aren't things that equitably support their experiences on this campus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we're assessing, students, ways to retain them, we're always looking at, first of all, what does our current demographic look like, right? Who are we trying to attract, right? What demographic of students are we trying to attract? Um, what else? We're looking at, we're essentially listening and having a listening ear to the current students who are using the EMC and saying, they have the same complaints that students 5 or 6 or even 10 years ago had.
Hmm.
Um, I say I just gave this weird stat to a student. So I've been altogether, academically, professionally, whatever, I've been on this campus for 10 years,
Mm.
right? 10 and a half years. And out of those 10 and a half years, I've been in school probably 7 or 8, right? I've only ever had like 1 year of a break
Oh
from
wow.
school. So I've been in school essentially the whole time. I'm in school now. I'll be done in August, and then that's it.
Hmm.
Um, and so ask me how many Black professors I've had in those 7 or 8 years I've been in school.
Like one or two? How many have you had? Zero.
Zero.
Wow.
I've not had one Black professor. Right. So that means we have work to do. That means that we have changes to make. Right. So when we're talking about assessing students like retention and ways, things that we have to implement, things that not only make students feel that their experience is seen, not just seen but celebrated, right? It's
Hmm.
one thing to have your experience seen, but am I celebrating the fact that your unique and diverse value being brought to this community is valued, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's usually the issue when it comes to those, when we're assessing students, like ways to retain them, right? So like, when I started out, I'm just like, well, what would have worked for me,
Mm.
right? Um, and we just started bare minimum. We did the inspiration station. We started with Wisdom Wednesday. I wish somebody gave me this advice. We, we partnered and collaborated with other departments and programs, right? So, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes students are like, I'm sorry, Rob. I had a couple. I'm not joking. Year one and year two. So we're at the end of our third academic year in existence,
Mm.
and I've had multiple students come to me and they're like, Rob, I can't do it. I gotta go.
Oh wow.
And I don't blame them. It's not. It is my job to assist with retaining them, but it's not my job to like force them to stay here.
Yeah.
Because if they don't feel that sense of recognition, representation, and belonging, then that again for me as the executive director, that means we have more work to do.
Yeah.
Um, but for those that feel like they can manage it, we give them as much support as possible, and we're starting to create our own, like I say we have a community within a community,
Mm.
right? And I don't mean something that's like surface or superficial. Like I feel like our students really rock with each other, and find people that they can create lifelong relationships with.
I like that. I was gonna ask you how you celebrate that.
Mm-hmm.
How you celebrate misrepresented students,
Mm-hmm.
but you've already said it. Is that you
Mm,
include them in there?
sure.
It's their choose. It's
Mm-hmm.
their choice
Mm-hmm.
whether they want to do that or not. Because you don't. At the end of the day, you don't want to force people into a position where they feel like they're not really heard. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's anywhere in life, in a job, in school.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, I see that your goal, or might I ask you, what is your goal? But I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming that you want to be a professor at Sacred Heart University as an adjunct. Is this just a stepping stone as for Shoe Multicultural?
So I am teaching now.
Oh,
I
okay.
started last week.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Congratulations.
I'm teaching a I graduated from the program, so
Gotcha.
it was for sure full circle when I was asked to teach. Um, I am when you mention like I don't see this position, or I don't see my teaching or whatever the case is as like a stepping stone. I see this opportunity as um, just my opportunity to express my own life's purpose and mission,
Mm,
right? So my own life's purpose and mission not only is to serve and support other people, but to shift their perspectives to get to self-actualization, to want to better themselves. um because I had those moments. I know I want to better myself, and I do that, right? I do that every single day, but in different capacities, right? We have, there's your faith, there's your family. Like, how are you ensuring that you're developing these different areas? And each day I try to push towards the mark in each one of them. But ultimately, man, the goal for me, I just like anybody, man, I want to be financially free, and I really want to be able to support my family back home. I really want to be able to create a new um, a new energy, or uh, a new pathway for my family moving forward, if that makes sense.
where are
Like
you
when I
from?
have kids,
Where's your family?
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Gotcha,
Yep.
gotcha.
Some of my family's in North Carolina. I actually have family in like Fort Lauderdale, apparently, and on my mom's side, they're all Jamaican. But I'm specifically talking about my immediate family.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, so yeah, because I like when I think about my older brother who's guided me and mentored me. I know if he heard this, he's like, "You don't owe me nothing." No, I want to pay. I owe you,
Mm-hmm.
and the debt isn't even repayable, and there's no monetary value
Value
that I could
attached to
assign
it.
to what he and my dad have instilled in me and or show me. Um, and because I easily could have went so many different ways and directions. But ultimately, the goal for me is to become financially free and but continue to pour into people in a positive way, in a positive light, you know. And I'm doing that here at Sacred Heart, so I'm more than appreciative and content with what I do now. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to raise the standard at some point.
Uh, Not only is it important, you have a passion. Sorry, in your
Mm-hmm.
biography, you have a passion for personal development
Mm,
and self improvement.
sure.
Self improvement in multi and Schumacher. If I could speak today,
It's all right, man.
you have a passion
Mm-hmm.
for students who are misrepresented
Mm-hmm.
in the multicultural department,
Mm-hmm.
and you teach them about personal development.
Sure.
How important is personal development to you as a minority
Mm-hmm.
and the people that you're teaching?
It's so important because it's like if I allowed society's labels to define who I am, then how can I define who I like I need to define me,
Yeah.
right? So and a lot of times we allow society to say that because you're a part of this particular social group, this is how you should be acting or this is how you should carry yourself. And it's like, no, I like I set my standard. I carve my own path and no one else will do that for me. So if I want to carve my path through education, then I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do that. If I want to carve my path through professionalism, I'm going to do that, right? So personal and professional development for me, the past, since I was like 22, 23, yeah, right around your age, man. That was when I started to listen to motivational stuff and, um, you know, personal development and thinking about the way I think
Mm.
because a lot of my thinking was very negative, right? And still sometimes can be, but if I am not practicing and processing my own thoughts and feelings, I need to then I can't be my best self,
Yep.
right? So
Absolutely.
from a personal development standpoint, and people some people might think it's boring. I don't give a damn. I love the fact that I'm a principle based individual who's driven through like my character and my integrity is at the root of everything that I do. So you'll never have to question my intentions or why I'm in the room or why I'm here because I'm not trying to get over on you. I'm not trying to one up you. I'm not trying to put you in a position of lack,
Mm.
right? And I don't get there though if I'm not working on my personal development, right? If I don't have core beliefs, if I don't have core values and principles.
Yeah.
Now on the professional side, you know, it's so funny because I've seen so many, you know, like when people will talk about, you know, when you dress professionally, like they think that's not professional. That's not professionalism, I should say.
Yeah.
Professionalism is like how are you carrying yourself in your in the workforce, in the workspace.
Daily life.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I can come in dressed just like this, and I promise you, I'm more professional than you. I'll come in a in a
Sweatpants,
polo and
sweatshirt.
some
Yeah.
jeans, and you know, because I've seen it. I've seen people claim to be professionals, but their behavior wasn't in alignment with how they were dressed.
Absolutely.
So it's like I was looking, I was like, oh, so then that's not professionalism, right? So, but my personal and professional development are tied and married together because at the core of my my personal beliefs, my principles support my professional, you know, interactions and engagement,
Got
right?
you.
So, and I think it's hard, man. It's hard for people to grasp that concept. It's hard for people to want to better themselves in that way because you don't get a reward for that. Like nobody's patting you on the back for having principles.
Absolutely.
Nobody's patting you on the back for having integrity. But that's not what it's when you understand truly and wholly what it's about, when you understand that integrity and character and having it rooted and intertwined in everything that you do,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you understand that the reward is your personal growth, that's the reward. It's not about somebody recognize giving me a DEI. I don't care about any about that stuff. Like I don't care about my titles. I don't care about any of that. I don't care. I don't even have my degrees posted on my wall notes because those are all my character is more valuable and my integrity is more valuable than any one of those titles, any one of those degrees. Because without that, I don't get any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's reward enough for me to see my own personal and professional growth year in and year out. So
I love that. It's a lot of people don't talk about how it's really within them and the things that they do on a daily basis that matter more than the rewards,
yeah,
because it's the things that you do on a daily basis that build up to those rewards.
absolutely.
Most importantly, you mentioned how you want to be financially free at the end of the day,
Sure.
and that's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
Is that what motivates you as well to build character, or is that just something that you feel is you want to give back in another way as well as you are now?
There's two reasons. I want financial freedom. One, obviously, to give back. Like, I would love to create scholarships for underrepresented students and send kids to school. No, not would love. It's gonna happen. I don't know when. Just like I didn't know how I was gonna get to this point, or you know, you get what I mean. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't know how it was gonna come to fruition. But same, I have that same feeling for that particular statement. But I want to be able to, support those that are in need, particularly obviously my family, but others that I see, like you got that it factor, that potential to be something or someone, right? But the other side for me, and a lot of people, I don't. This might be controversial for me, for some people, but for
Mm-hmm.
me, it drives me. It's like I look at my ancestors and I look at where we've come from. I look at my parents' story and how my mom my mom or dad neither one of my parents graduated high school. Um my grandparents, I don't know that they even graduated like middle or high school,
Oh wow.
right? So because they weren't even allowed access to certain opportunities, I gotta get mine. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That drives me enough because it's like I value this opportunity because 20, 30, well, not 20, I'm saying, geez, 20 years ago was only 2000. 40, 50 years ago, I wouldn't even be allowed to attend and receive an education at some institutions.
Yeah.
150, 200 years ago, I wasn't even like we wouldn't be allowed to literally read. How's that not motivation enough? And that's all I needed to know. Once I found that out as a kid, I was like, so you mean to tell me that people weren't even allowed to read a book? Right? And then it was used as a psychological tactic in order to sever connections between one enslaved African person to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, and I have ancestors that, whether here in the States or in Jamaica, that experienced that along with trauma, that's enough motivation for me to get up every day. And the full circle reality and like beauty of it all is that the work that I do is tied to that. So the financial freedom piece is because I understand that I have an opportunity that those before me didn't have.
Mm.
And a lot of people, you know, are just here existing and thinking like that means something to me personally. That means something. That means everything to me, because I want to ensure that my children realize that level of a value too. Because 150, 200 years prior, you would not even be able to pick up a book without being met with violence. So that for me, that's super important. That's one of the pillars as to why I want to be financially free, along with you know offering people access, because there right now in society are still people that don't have access.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they are financially constrained, they are financially bound, and can't even receive an education, just because you live in a particular city and are a part of a particular social group. Right,
Yeah.
so who's going to be that person to pay for those individuals' education? Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. What's the advice you would give yourself, your younger self? We all have life the way that it is now, but we would do some things differently. Some of us would. What's the advice you would give to somebody maybe that wants to be in your position, or maybe even your younger self if you can't think of somebody?
I was just saying to the students today, I was like, there's no degree in multiculturalism. So it's like, it's funny. I studied psych and did sociology as a minor. My advice would be, just be confident, man. You'll learn everything that you need to learn in the midst of the process. And just because at that moment you aren't equipped with the specialties, whatever is needed for you to get to that next steps, like the process will teach you,
Yeah.
right? Um, yeah, just be confident in whatever abilities that you do have, max those out, right? Like, I don't care if it's your charisma's out this roof, max that out. I don't care, like if you're super structured, you're super organized, max that out. It's at that point when the door will open for you to learn and unlock that new aspect or attribute that you need to get to the next level, right? So yeah, I would just say be confident in your capabilities, and you're in the room for a reason, man. Like, you're in the room for a reason. If you weren't supposed to be there, you wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. And I catch myself at times, even now, where like I'm like, damn, really? I'm like, why I'm in this room? Like, y'all expect me to talk about this topic? You sure? And I have to catch myself, and I'm like, yo, what do you mean? Like, you not only do you, but like not only do you belong here, you deserve to be here. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here.
I love
It's
it.
very simple. So that's it. That's all I got.
How can we support you, Shoe Multicultural,
Mm-hmm.
Rob Johnson? How can
Mm-hmm.
we support you?
Yeah, man. So come to the Multicultural Center, man. And I think, we've created an environment where like anybody can come in and just, if you have a question, or um if you want to learn, man, if you want to learn about these topics, if you feel like nobody's talking about this stuff, this is the place to come. This is the area to find those groups of people that want to talk about equity, that want to practice it as well and put it into action, and want to create an inclusive environment. So come to the MC, come to our events. And it's not the funny thing that I always like to explain to people, it's not always the serious, quote unquote, I don't like to call them political conversations, because they're not. They're human rights conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But um come like they're not always those types of combos, right? We're talking about personal and professional development, like we're talking about
Yeah.
these things, right? So it's not all doom and gloom like most people think it is. It's actually a fun time the majority of the time, but we're going to talk about the real issues too. So come support us, follow us at shoe_multicultural center_ on all of our platforms. We also have our podcast as well, so look up Shoe Multicultural Affairs for the Culture Podcast. What else is there? Follow me on LinkedIn, Robert S. Johnson. Also, check out my new consulting business, RSJ Inclusion Consulting. So rsjinclusion.com. If you want me to come to your school and talk to your students about cultural competency and DEIB, I'll do that. If you need your management or senior leadership to develop certain diversity competencies, I'll do that. So go to my website, rsjinclusion.com. So that's how you can support me individually, but definitely support the Multicultural Center for sure too.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And I figured it out. It's actually this camera that is the one that's in the middle. So that's awkward. But aside from
That's
that,
all good. I always look this way anyway.
a man that loves to give back, Robert Johnson.
Yep.
I appreciate you being on my
Appreciate you, Shaun.
podcast. This has been another episode of Elephant in the Room. And if I could speak today, it would be great. Thank you for watching.